Welcome back to day 2 of our 5-day challenge. Today we're going to be learning letters of the Armenian alphabet, as well as how to pronounce them. And at the end of this lesson, you will even be able to read and understand a few Armenian words based on what we've learned today.
This was a sample lesson from Tun Online Armenian School. If you're interested in learning Eastern or Western Armenian, you can sign up and start learning for free today at tunup.com.
On screen, we've shown you our practice writing Armenian magnetic whiteboard and pen set. You can find this at www.tunapp.com/shop. It is a great tool to put on your fridge to practice reading and writing the Armenian alphabet. You can trace the letters up the top, and you can use the space below to practice writing out your shopping list or notes to your friends and family in Armenian. And we've included a discount code on the right. Just enter TAKE10 at the checkout for 10% off this item in your currency. Okay, if you're ready, let's dive in. The first letter of the Armenian alphabet that we'll learn today is A. A is used in the word arev, or sun, avaz, or sand, and also in Hayastan. Have a look at the shape of the lowercase letter A. It looks like an upside-down M in English. In the top left-hand corner, we've put the letter A in a capital and in a lowercase. Looking at the word arev on screen, can you find A in this word? That's right at the beginning, arev. Okay, let's try another one. This is the word avaz, meaning sand. Can you find A in this word? That's it, right at the beginning, but there's also one in the middle, and that's the lowercase A, avaz. Sand. Okay, here we have Hayastan, which means Armenia in Armenian. How many times can you see A in this word? 3, that's right. Now, if you're new to seeing the Armenian language written, you may think that a lot of the letters look similar. But don't worry, over the course of today, and of course if you join our online Armenian school, you will quickly be able to recognize that these letters are different, and you'll be able to read and write them very quickly. Hayastan. H, A, Y, A, S, D, A, N. Hayastan. There's 3 A sounds in Hayastan. What about the word ach, meaning salt? Can you find the A in this word? That's it, right there at the beginning. What about ach or aj, meaning right? We say ach in Eastern Armenian and aj in Western Armenian. Where is the A in this word? That's it. So already you're starting to recognize this letter quickly. A. Okay, here is the uppercase A and the lowercase a. Pause now to take a pen and paper. We're going to practice writing this out a couple of times and also saying the sound. The practice of writing and speaking the sound will help you remember it. If you're ready, take your pen and paper and write out the capital letter A 5 times as you say it. I'll do it with you. A. 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 Well done. Okay, let's move on to the lowercase. It's important that you sound out each letter as you write it so that your brain associates the sound and the shape of the letter together. Let's write this out together 5 times. A. 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 Okay, well done. If you're ready to move on to the next letter, this is S, or the equivalent to the English letter S. S is found in the word sev, meaning black. Sechan, meaning table. Ser, meaning love. Have a look in the top left corner. We've shown you a S in an uppercase and a lowercase formation. Where is S in this word, sev? Right there at the beginning, that's right, you're getting good at this. S looks like the English letter U. And for a while, it might be difficult to disassociate the English letter with the Armenian letter, given that the characters look so similar. But with practice, it always becomes easier. Sechan, table. Can you see the S in this word? Right there at the beginning. Now there's also another letter that we recognize in this word. Can you see any other letters that we recognize? A, sechan. A, the second last letter before the end. What about ser, meaning love? Where's the S in this word? Well done, right there at the beginning. Okay, now on screen we have sa, which is a way to say this in Eastern Armenian. Where is the S in sa? At the beginning, that's right, and you can see A is there as well. Congratulations, you can read your first Armenian word, sa, meaning this in Eastern Armenian. Let's take our pen and paper again and write out the capital letter S 5 times as we pronounce it. I'll do it with you. S, 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 S. Make sure you pronounce the letters as you write them. It's tempting to take a shortcut and not pronounce it, or even not write it, but if you don't pronounce and don't write the letters, you'll risk not remembering them as well. Okay, let's go. Lowercase s looks like an English letter U. Let's write it together while pronouncing it. S, 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 S. Well done. And actually, I was pronouncing it S so that you could hear me, but really it is just the sound S. Okay, on to our third letter. This is ye or e. It is pronounced either ye or e in both Eastern Armenian and Western Armenian. There's no variation depending on the dialect. However, you'll find that the pronunciation of this letter changes depending on its positioning in the word. That might sound complicated, but we'll show you a few examples. In this word, Yerevan, the e or ye sound is at the beginning of the word, and so it's pronounced ye. Now I have just given away the answer, but can you find ye or e in this word? Use the key at the top left-hand corner if you need to. Yeah, well done. Can you see any other letters that you recognize in this word? Ah, the second last letter from the end, ah, well done. We also use e in sechan or table. We can recognize the s right at the beginning. The second letter is e, sechan. Because this letter is found in the middle of the word, it's pronounced e and not ye. Because if we were to say siyechan, it would be a bit difficult to wrap our mouths around. Sechan, e. And ser, meaning love. S, e, r. And so the rule here is if you see e or ye sound at the beginning of a word, it's pronounced ye. If you see it in the middle of a word or towards the end of a word, it's pronounced e. Let's take our pen and paper now and we'll write out the uppercase ye or e. 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 Okay, well done. The lowercase looks very similar, although it has a little tail on the end at the bottom. Let's write this out together, saying it as we go 5 times. Ye or e. 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 Okay. We've learnt 3 letters so far and we've put them on screen for you. Hopefully these are starting to look familiar. Looking at the 3 letters on screen, can you identify which is the A letter? That's it, the one in the middle. Okay, brilliant. Let's try another. Which one out of these 3 letters makes the S sound? Perfect, the one on the left. And that leaves the one on the right. Do you remember what sound this makes? E or ye. Okay, let's keep going. The next letter we'll learn is the Armenian letter R. This letter looks a lot like the English lowercase r, and so it's very easy to remember. But instead of sounding like the lowercase r in English, it's a roll of the tongue, r. The letter r is used in the word rope or robe, meaning minute. In Eastern Armenian, we pronounce it rope. In Western Armenian, robe. And we'll explain a little later on why there's a variation in the pronunciation. Have a look at the formation of the letter in the top left-hand corner of the screen. Can you see the letter R in this word? That's it, at the beginning, R. Okay, we can also see another letter here that we recognize. Have a look at the word and see if you can find it. E, right there at the end. That's E or ye, but because it's at the end of the word, it's pronounced E. If it were at the beginning, it would be pronounced ye. Okay, ser, we've seen this word before. We know the letter S and we know the letter E or ye. When we add the letter R, we can now spell ser in Armenian. Can you see the R in this word? Right there at the end, well done. And this is the second word that you can now spell, read and write in Armenian. Ser, S-E-R, meaning love. Well done. 2 words already in just a few minutes that you can read in Armenian. Ser. We also find R in khandir or khantir, meaning problem. The Eastern Armenian, khandir, and Western Armenian, khantir. Where is the R in this word? That's it, right there at the end, not to be confused with the letter before it. What about in this word? Chores, meaning for. Yes, you got it, right in the middle. R. Let's practice writing out the uppercase and the lowercase R so that we can remember it. Take your pen and paper now and let's write it 5 times as we pronounce it, starting with the uppercase letter. R. 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 Okay, and now the lowercase. R. 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 Well done. If you're not used to pronouncing this word with a roll of the tongue, you will get used to it the more we practice. The next one we'll learn is an I sound, the English equivalent to the letter I. In Armenian, this is always pronounced I, never I or E. It's I, a short sound. Just like we pronounce the letter A, always as A, never A or A, but A. Okay, let's have a look and see if we can find I in a few of our words. Inch, meaning what? Where is the I sound in inch? Use the key in the top left-hand corner if you need to. I, inch. Well done. Okay, let's practice writing this out. I, 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 I. Fabulous. And now the lowercase, looking very similar but taller and thinner than its uppercase counterpart. I, 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 I. Okay, time to test our memory again. Where is R on this screen? Yes, well done. It looks like the English letter R and it's in the far right in blue. Okay, what about I? Can you see I on this screen? It's the one we just learnt. That's it, right there in the middle in yellow. Well done. You're remembering really well so far. What about A, the first letter that we learnt? Where is A on this screen? Yes, that's it. Blue on the left. A. Okay, can you find E or Ye? Yep, the red one. Good job. Okay, and the last letter, can you remember what this is in Armenian? S. This is S. So far, we've learnt S, A, I, E or Ye, and R. And we can spell Sa, meaning this in Eastern Armenian, and Ser, meaning love. Okay, the next one for today is K or G. Now this is the first instance we've shown you of a letter that has different pronunciation in both the Eastern and Western Armenian dialects. In the practice writing Armenian whiteboard that we showed you earlier, you can see under some of the letters, for example the second one, B or P, the third one, G or K, the fourth one, D or T, that a few of the letters in the Armenian alphabet are pronounced differently depending on which dialect you are speaking. This results in different pronunciation of different words that use those letters. And so one of the great things about this practice writing whiteboard is that you can start to become familiar with the pronunciation in your dialect, as well as the pronunciation in the opposite dialect, so that you can understand both better. A great application for this is if you speak Western Armenian but want to visit Armenia, where they speak Eastern Armenian. If you can start to become familiar with both dialects, then it'll make it a lot easier to understand both in practice. Here we are looking at K in Eastern Armenian or G in Western Armenian. And for the purpose of today, we'll teach you both because we're not sure what your background is. Okay, the word on screen is pronounced Katu in Eastern Armenian or Gadu in Western Armenian. You can see here that the first letter and the third letter are both pronounced differently depending on which dialect. Can you see the K or the G in this word? Use the key on the top left-hand corner if you need to. Yes, Katu or Gadu. Well done. Can you see any other letters in this word that you recognise? Ah, there it is. Katu, Gadu. Ah. Okay, let's practice writing these out. We'll start with the uppercase K or G, and for this one, we'll get you to write it 5 times, but repeating it on your own in your dialect. I won't repeat the sound so I don't confuse you. Let's go, K or G 5 times, while you pronounce it each time. Okay, remembering that the Eastern Armenian pronunciation is on the left and the Western Armenian pronunciation is on the right. Let's go with the lowercase letter, doing the same as you did before, pronouncing it 5 times as you write it out. Okay, let's go. Brilliant. K or G. K in Eastern Armenian, G in Western Armenian. And the last letter we'll learn for today is T. This one's a little tricky to write. Its lowercase almost looks like a fancy English letter P. We find T in the word otyak, meaning lodge. The pronunciation in Eastern Armenian, otyak. In Western Armenian, otyag. And that's because the pronunciation of the letter at the end changes. K for Eastern Armenian or G for Western Armenian. Where is the T in this word? Have a look at the key in the top left-hand corner if you need to. There it is, right in the middle. Well done. Otyak. And the two other letters that we recognize in this word, A and K or G, depending on Eastern Armenian or Western Armenian. Let's practice writing the uppercase letter T. Say it each time as you write it. T. 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 Okay, and now the lowercase. T. 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 Well done. Pause the video if you need more time. Okay, now let's move on to some different practice exercises to test our memory. Now the letter that on screen is the one we just learnt, so it should be relatively easy to remember, but we'll have a practice for each of the lowercase letters that we've learnt. Using the options on the bottom of the screen, can you identify what the big letter in the middle of the screen is? T, that's right, the one we just learnt. T in otyak or otyag, meaning lodge. What about this one? Can you remember what this letter is in Armenian? K or G, that's right. K in Eastern Armenian, G in Western Armenian. What about this one, the first letter we learnt? A. Brilliant. This is A. You should be really proud if you're remembering these well so far. What about this letter? Can you identify this one using the options on the screen? S. This is S. Okay, what about this one? There are two letters that we've learnt today that look very similar. The K and the G and the I, or I. What's the letter on screen that you can see? Which one is this? This is I. Well done. Okay, what's this letter in Armenian? E or ye, remembering ye if it's at the beginning of a word, or pronounced e if it's in the middle or towards the end of a word. E or ye. Okay, and the easy one that almost looks like its English equivalent. What's this letter? R, that's right. Okay, so taking what we've learnt so far today, let's see if we can read the word on the screen. To do this, we'll translate each letter one by one. What's the first letter that you can see on screen? S. Okay, great. What about the next one? E. S, E. What's the third letter we can see? R. Well done. Ser, meaning love. Using the letters that we've learned today, you can now spell ser, meaning love, as well as read it and write it. Love. Okay, let's try another one, a slightly longer word. Can you remember the pronunciation of the first letter on the screen? K or G? Well done. K in Eastern Armenian, G in Western Armenian. We've put the K sound here just to make it simple visually, but it is pronounced G if you are Western Armenian. What's the second letter? R. Okay, well done. What about the third? The third letter is I. Okay, and can you remember the pronunciation of the final letter on screen? A. Kriya or Griya, meaning turtle in Armenian. Using the letters that we've learnt today, you can now spell, read and write the words ser, sa, and kriya or griya, depending on your dialect. This, love, and turtle. Okay, let's try another. What's the first letter that you can see in this word? Can you recognize it? Ah, okay. What about the second? S. You should be getting faster at this by now. Well done. And what about the final letter? Remember, this is the one that looks like another one of the letters that we've learnt today. I. Asi. Well done. Asi is another way of saying this in Armenian. Well done. Okay, and if your brain's getting tired, don't worry, because it's the last one we'll try to read today. What's the first letter you can see on screen? Do you remember the pronunciation? K or G. Well done. To save space, we've just put a K, but if you're speaking Western Armenian, it is pronounced G. What about the second letter? Ah, that's right. And the third letter on screen? T. Kat or gat, meaning milk in Armenian. Using the letters that we've learnt today, you can now read, write, and understand the word milk in Armenian, kat or gat. Okay, brilliant job. You've learnt a load today, and we'll spend the next minute or so recapping everything to solidify it into your memory. We learnt the letter A, uppercase and lowercase, A. We learnt S, and we practiced writing it a few times too. We learnt ye or e, remembering that there's the same pronunciation in each dialect, but the pronunciation changes depending on its positioning in the word. We use ye at the beginning of the word, or e if it's in the middle or towards the end. E or ye. We learnt r, which is a roll of the tongue and looks like the English lowercase r. R. We learnt the sound or the letter I. And we found this in the word asi, meaning this, which we can now spell perfectly. We learnt k or g, and this was the first example that we had of a different pronunciation depending on the Armenian dialect. In Eastern Armenian, it's pronounced k. In Western Armenian, it's pronounced g. And we also reviewed the magnetic practice whiteboard to see which other letters have variations in each of the dialects. And finally, we learned the letter T, looking like a fancy lowercase p in English, T. Well done, you've learnt so much today, and I'm so thrilled that you can already start to read and recognize the letters that we've covered. Remember to do your practice exercises. Even though what we've learnt today is stuck in your short-term memory, if you want to remember it next week and the week after and beyond, you will need to practice it. We put lots of interesting exercises there to make learning fun and to solidify what you've learnt today. Amazing job, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 3.